MusicalTalk, the UK independent musical theatre podcast.
Hello, welcome to this week's episode of Musical Talk. That's a good start, wasn't it? Press the wrong button.
You didn't even say Musical Talk then, because you got thrown.
We are, Hannah and I...
Do you want to start from the top?
No, Hannah and I are a bit poorly today, so you'll bear with us, but it's not catching, don't worry. We are going to talk about some shows that you've seen, some shows that we've seen, and some shows that I've seen, which is generally what this show's been doing for 20 years.
That tends to be how it works.
Let's start with you, because you went to see a West End staple recently, didn't you?
Yes.
In the form of Les Misérables.
Indeed. One that's been on my bucket list and my mum's bucket list for a very, very long time. So Nick and I treated her, and thus me, 2 tickets to go and see Les Mis for her birthday. And it was such an incredible evening, I have to say.
Now, your only exposure to Les Mis is through the film. Sorry, I feel really ill. Because you're a big fan of Helena Bonham Carter, you'll watch her do anything, won't you? So you even subjected yourself to Les Mis, the film.
I loved the film. But then we hadn't seen it on stage before the film came out. So for us, it kind of was a good thing in a way, because yes, it exposed us to the film, but it also exposed us to the piece. Something that without the film, we wouldn't know that we like, you know? So, okay, fine. Now, upon reflection, I kind of see some of the things that you say about the film as to why it's not the strongest piece. But if you have nothing else to compare it to and you enjoy it for what it is, you still enjoy it.
Did you ever listen to the original cast recording of Les Mis?
No, don't be silly. Don't be silly. No. But obviously, now that we've seen it on stage, it's really interesting to see it in the format that it should be, and then you notice, oh wait, they changed this for the film, or they changed that for the film, and they moved where I Dreamed a Dream was for the film, and then... So it's nice to see it as the cohesive stage piece as well, and to see people play those roles that are good at those roles. Now, no disrespect to anybody from the film, but it was nice to see Javert's songs sung in a strong way.
Yes, and also, who's the other one? Javert and who's Hugh Jackman?
Valjean.
Yeah, and Valjean as well.
Yeah, true.
Because Hugh Jackman, whilst he's an excellent singer, that role was just not right for him, and because they were singing it live on set, his voice is very raspy in the film. And of course you can't hear Helen Bonham Carter at all, which is normal for her in musicals, which is probably a good thing. But
Oi!
Seeing the show...
Her photo is staring at you right now.
It is, but she's good at Bellatrix. It's just good she doesn't sing. Seeing the show... Stop putting your middle finger up at me.
I got them both up, thank you.
Seeing the show... were you looking forward to it?
It was one of those mixed bag ones, because I know that I've always wanted to see it, but then the thought of going to see it, purely for the length of it, I was like, oh God, here we go. Do you know what I mean? Because we've seen a few things that have been quite long, and I know that I try and it's the same in film, when we see films as well, like I just slyly look at my watch, because I'm thinking, how far are we? How long have we got left? That was one of them, yes. But because you just think, oh God, it's a bit long, isn't it? But I did not do that once for Les Mis. I was so taken in by it, and I just enjoyed every part of it so much more than I thought I could. Because it's one of those shows that after the film came out, I knew back to front. I could do the whole thing, one person. I knew it that well. And
go on then.
What now? While I'm losing my voice? While I'm losing my voice, yep. Thank you.
Because you can sound like Hugh Jackman. And Russell Crowe. And Helena Bonham Carter.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Sorry, listener.
Do you wish you saw the original production, or did you prefer this version? No, I liked
this production because... I said to you, you pay so much money for the tickets to then not have a set I want to see my money on stage. Now, I appreciate that it's a fairly big cast and things, so there's a lot of people that you have to employ. You're paying for your musicians, you're paying for your backstage crew. There are a lot of people whose wages need to be paid out of these tickets. I appreciate that. However, other big shows have casts like that, have backstage crews, have musicians, but the tickets are a fraction of the cost of what Les Mis charge.
Because Les Mis is relying on its tourism
Exactly.
factor.
So the fact that the older show still probably charged the same but had nothing on stage. It's like Frozen. I was more than happy to pay the ticket price because I feel like in this set you saw your money on stage. Like that bridge, the ice palace, everything. Yeah. I'm like, okay, this is a spectacle. I don't mind paying that. Whereas then you see something like Hamilton that's got one set and you're like,
a desk comes on and it doesn't a light lower from the stage at some point.
But you know what I mean?
Yes, exactly. I'm a huge advocate for I want to see big set pieces because it is a dying art form.
Did you see the original with no set then?
Yes, and I wouldn't say it had no set. It was famous for the use of the...
Minimalistic.
It was famous for the use of the revolve, and it had a desk would appear and a kind of an
so
archway.
A bit more in the Hamilton-esque element.
Yeah. And all the actors would kind of shuffle along around this revolve, and they would walk as it was going the other way.
They did have a little bit of that. So some of the walking would be like walking in a circle as if the revolve were there. So that was quite a nice little nod.
But what does annoy me is when a show will simply use a video screen.
That's what we had, and it did annoy me because...
But you still had a set. I'm saying shows that...
Oh, like Charlie did. Yeah. We'll name names here. Yeah. Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
I remember Big the Musical was a big
screen.
Big screen at the back of a stage and nothing else. And you think, oh, come on, guys. And I think Devil Wears Prada does the same as well.
Oh, that's put me off seeing it even more. I have to say, though, it was only used a couple of times. But when it was being used, I was a bit like, eh. But it was.
But
used...
it works for the suicide scene.
No, we didn't have.
No.
Oh, we did have a screen for that. So I really liked how they did that with the bridge that lifted up, and then he was suspended on wires. But then, as soon as the screen came in to make it look like it was an aerial view of him going into the water, you kind of lost it. I'd much rather have just watched him go down a trap door.
Well, you should have seen the original production then.
Oh, is that exactly what happened? Okay.
He just kind of fumbles off the bridge and does the world a favour. So Les Mis
I do though, however, while we were on the topic of sets, the Rue Plumet set was stunning, and the way that it was all lit and everything, I loved that.
The what set?
The Rue Plumet set.
Okay, what's that one?
So, you know when Valjean and Cosette are older, and there's a bit where they're walking through the town and you've got the Thénardiers there and they're like with the baby, like trying to fob off and get some more money. And Valjean and Cosette are living in the big house with the gates.
Oh, okay.
There. That was done really nicely. I
remember
like
this, because you said you didn't like the way the screen simulated movement in the sewers.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking that was quite effective when I saw it.
Oh, no. It just... Nowadays, it just gives tacky vibes, I think.
Maybe, the 25th anniversary, 100 years ago, it was probably more groundbreaking.
I was going to say, to then keep using it in 2025, it's a bit like, oh, come on, just give me a set.
You still yet to see Phantom of the Opera, which is kind of the two biggest shows in the world. I've seen one of them.
I've seen one of them. I need to cross over the road now and go and see the other.
And the Queen's Theatre, a nice theatre, because it looks really modern from the front.
Wasn't the Queen's, was it?
Sorry, it used to be called the Queen's. It's now the Sondheim
Sondheim. I was going to
Theatre.
say. I was like, I'm sure that's the one where there were loads of pictures of Sondheim in there now. It was all right. Cameron's signature wallpaper everywhere.
Yep. Leg rooms and lavatories. That should be the two important things to talk about.
2 L's to talk about in a theatre. Come on. Yeah. I mean, they were comfy enough.
3 hours, comfortable?
Yeah, I was more comfortable in there than I was at Stranger Things.
Okay. Well, there we go.
Who owns that one?
That's
Phoenix.
Ambassadors.
Says it all.
Yep. I want to briefly mention Inside Number 9 on stage, even though it's not a musical. It does have elements of song.
It was a play with songs.
It's a play with songs.
So that qualifies it.
It was excellent. You can't say it because it's sold out, and that's all we have to say about it, but we enjoyed it very much. I want to talk about Scissorhands. We were very kindly invited to go and see it, so thank you. And old Musical Talk alumni Emma Williams was in it, and I've not seen the film of Edward Scissorhands.
Boo.
So
I took Nick, hang on, I took you to go and see the Danny Elfman music of Tim Burton.
Yeah.
You heard the music.
I've heard the music. I've
You
seen
saw clips of it on the screen.
I've seen the exhibition, but I've yet to see the film.
And I said to you, you need to see this film before we go. What didn't you do? Watch the film. What did you think of it?
Well,
Given you've never seen...
let's talk about Scissorhands as a piece, because it's a jukebox musical.
Yeah.
With no kind of set rules as to what the songs are. It's not like it's... well, they are chart hits, but it's not like it's boy bands only, for example.
Yeah, it was just kind of free reign of anything.
Yeah. And it's a 90-minute, one-act story told with a lot of songs very quickly. As the expert in the room, what did you think of it? And it's playing at the Southwark Playhouse Elephant, which we'll talk about in a minute. But what did you think of the show?
I enjoyed it more than I thought I would. However, I stand by what I said to you.
And what I said to you as well, I think.
Is that it's a shame that this is our only musical representation for this piece. Because I saw the Matthew Bourne ballet of Edward Scissorhands as well, and that was incredible. But I just thought like this could have been a real chance to have something with original songs, more of the music from the film, and yet we get a jukebox musical that's very pushing on gender identity and things like that. And it's a bit like...
very 2025.
Yeah, and I do think like... it was good, but is this all we get type thing?
I was happy to hear that it was as faithful to the film as it could be, because I remember saying to you as we're leaving, well, the romantic interest is introduced really randomly and quite late on in the story. And you said, yep, just like in the film.
I'm pretty sure, yeah.
Which strikes me as a bit of a flaw, but I enjoyed it. I thought it was very well constructed as a jukebox musical, because they are hard to do, and I recognised some of the songs, I will say, from the popular combos of today and yesterday, which is quite good. I liked there's a wonderful trio of kind of a Greek chorus.
They are good
in the show. And
the neighbours.
Yeah.
So for those that have seen the film will know the neighbours in the film.
Yeah.
They are kind of the Greek chorus. So
and Beetlejuice, sorry, Edward, well, just Scissorhands as he's called, because Edward is a really stupid name, is kind of...
But they could have gone with Eddie.
Yeah.
Because Eddie...
Edwina.
He's referred to as Eddie in the film as well by the dad. So if you want to keep it kind of gender neutral, you could have gone with Eddie.
But the main star in this show is Emma Williams, and that's because, Hannah, you were really impressed with her kind of...
Oh, she did so well. I loved the way that she was just so faithful.
As a fan of the film, you felt like you were seeing the character, there, weren't you? Because there's an
100%.
opening monologue where she just nailed it, you said.
She did. And she did the whole thing that I loved with like... saying about her cosmetics, and she was like, to highlight and contour your face, but she did it all with the hand and everything, and it's just the details I loved so much.
The reason I was able to sell this show to you was...
Because I have to say, I wasn't convinced to start with, because I'm such a fan of the film that to me, to suddenly hear a jukebox musical for Edward Scissorhands, just called Scissorhands with a Z on the end, I was like, tapping out. Not for me.
But then
Sorry.
Michelle Visage entered the picture, didn't she?
Yeah.
And Let's Have a Kiki.
Let's have a kiki.
And that kind of, you went, oh,
Okay, fine, I'll go
Sold.
and see it.
And did it live up? I mean, it's interesting how a show can, because for goodness sake,
You keep
because
saying it.
because Edward Scissorhands is not camp, is it?
Not at all.
And this show is, so it's really clever.
It's weird how it's been flipped and it still kind of works. But, I mean, it's great as a piece of just fun theatre type thing. And Matthew Bourne takes the same piece and does it very seriously, but with no words and no song and all music. Can we just please have something that meets in the middle?
Yeah. Because you said they even had some of Danny Elfman's...
They did. They had the first 7 notes. And Nick, why is the first 7 notes of a piece, or just 7 notes of a piece of music, very important?
Because after 8 notes, it becomes copyrightable.
Exactly.
Which is why only in Wicked do they quote the first 7 notes of Somewhere Over the Rainbow in the Unlimited theme, because Schwartz was kind of mocking the system, really.
Yeah, there we go. And so, yeah, and I was sitting there counting them and I was like, no, that's 7. That's 7. And it happened 2 or 3 times. They just used the 7.
Is that the famous snow dance piece they quote?
Yeah, it was some of Ice Dance, or it could have been the opening. Both are very similar.
Okay.
I can't remember now which 7 it was. I'm just trying to work it out. But yeah, it was definitely 7.
You do wonder why there isn't a musical of it, though.
I know. We've got Beetlejuice.
Yeah. You do wonder why there is a musical of that as well, but...
Yeah, that could have been done a little bit
I wonder
better.
if...
Like, why isn't there a Nightmare Before Christmas one? It lends itself so nicely.
That's down to Disney to decide what to do with that. There is the question of, like, is this approved?
Yeah, I did wonder if it is actually approved or not.
Because they don't ever mention... I mean, they say they do mention Edward Scissorhands, but they call him Scissorhands throughout the whole show. Call them Scissorhands throughout the whole show.
Oh, my goodness. I'm all for inclusivity. I really am. But it was just a bit on the nose.
Some people were loving it, though. I mean, there were 3 girls behind us who were practically auditioning to be in the show.
Yeah, because they'd already had a fair few glasses of something.
Yes.
But I'm all for inclusivity in a piece. And I'm all for twisting gender norms. And I'm all for that. But when it comes to the point where you actually have to almost break the 4th wall to be like, no. Oh, no. Them.
What did you think of the audience interactivity element?
I did like it. And I like the fact that it was in a smaller venue.
Yeah.
So you can get away with doing that. I quite liked it. Thought it was a really nice touch.
Especially not the game show, the kind of chat show moment was good fun, wasn't it?
Yeah, the interview.
The venue.
Cordelia Dietz.
Yes.
I loved that. Loved it.
The venue. For the Southwark Playhouse to not be in Southwark is... I know there's 2 of them. I'm splitting hairs here. But it's in Elephant and Castle. Call it the Elephant Playhouse because that has a much better name. I thought it was very comfortable. I was worried because I'd heard bad things about the venue. Last time I was there was the wonderful episode where we interviewed fellow National Youth Music Theatre alumni and ex-alumni. It's well equipped, I think. Sightlines were okay, I think.
Yeah, from where we were, they were fine.
And I think everyone has a good seat. I don't know if the dress circle was open.
I saw some people up there.
Okay. Were they actors? Because there were actors.
There were actors up there, but I think they were just audience members as well.
Yeah. And I enjoyed it more than I thought I would. It's always nice to see a jukebox musical done well because they can be a bit clunky. How
would you... So the only other kind of jukebox musical I can think of to compare it to is Anne Juliet,
but
I never saw that. So how is it...
Anne Juliet was really clever, and it came across as...
Sorry.
At least Anne Juliet had a through line of a theme to the music, and it was very subtle in the fact that all the songs are written by pop composer Max Martin.
Okay.
And no one knows who he is, so they had to have a 3-page thing in the programme titled Who is Max Martin?
That's brilliant.
Whereas this show, I know one of Backstreet Boys members is one of the producers behind it as well. So it obviously does have music clout in the production team. I thought the songs were good, but I felt tonally it was pretty similar throughout the whole show. And I know there was a gospel number and there was some hard rock stuff, there was no. The problem with jukebox musicals is within the songs you can never do comedy.
No. And the thing is that I found was, much like with Moulin Rouge, is, okay, fine, I know that these girls had a fair amount to drink, but Emma Williams was just starting to do her big number, and these three girls start laughing.
Yeah.
Because they realise what the song is. And it's like, this is such a serious moment, but because of your song choice, people start to laugh.
It's one of the things I remember about seeing Mamma Mia 1,000 years ago for the very first time, and the show had never been around like this, where kind of arguably some of the most famous pop songs ever written were put into dramatic situations.
And people just find it funny.
And people were just giggling.
Yeah.
And it felt like, tee, I know that song. And it was rather charming. But none of the songs in Mamma Mia are
overly
really serious, are they?
No.
So when you have what was the big moment in Emma Williams in the scene, can you remember?
Was it Zombie when she sang that one?
Yeah. Not the Hannah Montana version, Miley Cyrus.
Well, it's a Cranberry,
Yeah.
so
Didn't Miley cover it?
yeah, she did.
Okay. And yeah, you were giggling. If you're in the audience,
I wasn't giggling.
No, but people were. These three girls that wish they were in the show, and one of them was in the show at one point. We will say, and when the actors reference the fact that you're plastered, it must be a bit embarrassing.
Yeah.
And they did get a death stare from either me or you, and they did shut up, which was quite good.
And they got one from both of us.
Yeah. And yeah, we know you know the show. It's a Friday night. We're all here to enjoy it, but we haven't paid to hear you
sing along.
Yeah. I don't care if you're the best singers in the world.
That is the downside to a jukebox musical as opposed to seeing something that's original. Is
people sing along at Les Mis?
Well, no, I know that actually they were really well behaved.
Good. Because if they didn't, they get shot probably in that show. So, Scissorhands, a nice surprise for you. I think it's one of those shows that you went in with your...
It was nice for both of us to go in not really knowing anything.
Yeah.
Because obviously I knew the film, but I didn't know how they were going to do it, and you knew nothing. So...
Which is good.
Yeah, because usually it's you going in knowing everything.
Next week we're going to be talking
won it, Hudson.
Next week we're going to be talking about MJ and a new one-man show about the life of Andrew Lloyd Webber. But let's end, speaking of Andrew Lloyd Webber, with some congratulations to the winners of the WhatsOnStage Awards. And let's just start. I mean, Start Express was the big winner of the evening.
Oh, it dominated, let's face fact.
Winning 7 awards.
And you saw it. Are they worthy of the 7 awards?
I think so. I think it's
You're having to really choose your words wisely.
It's not the greatest musical ever written, and now we have that officially from the creator. We're allowed to say it, but
I'm sorry. It was the way that the other creatives, their faces dropped when he said that. And then, did you see the bloke trying to usher him off the stage afterwards? It's like, come away before you say anything else.
So let's go through some of the awards from the WhatsOnStage Awards. So first of all, congratulations to Dame Imelda Staunton for
Hello Dolly,
her wonderful performance in Hello Dolly.
Oh, she was so good, and it's very well deserved.
David Tennant won for Macbeth. That's not a musical.
I don't care.
Cabaret, Leighton Williams won an award, and here we go for Stars Express. So the first one is Best Professional Debut goes to Jeevan Break. I hope I'm pronouncing your name properly for Start Express. And then Mean Girls won Best Musical. Start Express won...
Is it a new musical? Or has it been around for a while? Because I feel like it's been around for a while.
It's new for London.
Okay. I see.
I saw it on Broadway 5 years ago.
Okay.
So it's newish. Start Express won Best Revival. And... Six won Best West End Show, which, still selling out, which is good. Best Regional Production was Oliver, which is confusing because it's now in the West End, but it comes from...
I was going to say, I thought...
But it comes from Chichester.
Okay.
And Something Rotten won Best Concert Event, which is interesting that they're doing...
That's the Horrible Histories one, isn't it? No.
No, it's a musical about Shakespeare. It's American, but it's very similar in style to Horrible Histories. And Best Musical was Best Musical Direction, sponsored by Disney's Hercules, goes to Liam Robinson and Tarek Merchant for Hadestown. I'd
like to see that.
Best Cast and Direction to a friend of mine, Sarah Jane Price, well done, and Harry Blemenow for Why Am I So Single. Best Choreography goes to Christopher Wheeldon, also the director for MJ the Musical, which we'll talk about next week. And here we go. So, Costume Design, Starlight Express. Lighting Design, Starlight Express. Set Design, Starlight Express. Video Design, Starlight Express. And Best Wigs, Hair and Makeup Design, Starlight Express.
You sound like Peter on that clip of Family Guy. Starlight Express! Starlight Express!
That pretty much sums up the awards.
Starlight Express! Starlight Express!
Would you like to see it?
No.
Okay. Good night. Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Musical Talk. We'll be back.
And I'm a Thomas the Tank Engine fan.
Well, there you go. That's what That's what he wanted it to be originally.
I know.
Reverend Audrey didn't allow him to do it.
Dun, 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 dun.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Musical Talk. My name is Nick Cutson. That's Hannah Budd, and we shall see you next week. Until then, take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Musical Talk. To find out more about the world of Musical Talk, you can visit our website at musicaltalk.co.uk, where you'll find all our episodes, or you can listen on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or YouTube. Please follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Musical Talk.